Check, check, check.
Check, check, check.
Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out otheanthem.com. It's where you can find everything Oh The Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/Oh The Anthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/Oh The Anthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Chief.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at Oh The Anthem on all your social networks.
I really don't understand this anymore. So, first of all, just so you know what the outrage is this time, what Feinstein did this time.
Oh, wait, so she yelled at a bunch of school kids?
No, that was last time.
Oh, that was last time. Okay, all right, yeah.
Before that, there was the voting yes on Christopher Wray and the almost voting yes on Jeff Sessions and handful of other, no, we have to give these people a chance before everyone was just like, Diane, shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down. Don't talk about voting for Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, I remember all this, yeah.
This time, it was the end of the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, and she decided to take a little time out of her day to say what a wonderful nomination process this has been from Lindsey Graham and the Republicans. And she's so looking forward to the bipartisan nature in which we're going to be able to work going forward. And I'm so happy for where we are as a country right now. And then she goes across the stage, across the dais, and hugs Lindsey Graham, both of them not wearing masks, both of them elderly, if we can use that as a generalized term between the ages of the two of them.
I mean, they're both old as fuck, so yeah I would say elderly's fine. Yeah.
And Lindsey Graham apparently is not taking COVID tests at all.
Yes, because he's positive and doesn't want to come up positive.
He doesn't want to take a test, but he's willing to hug Dianne Feinstein on the stage.
Well, you may get your wish. That's all I'm saying.
And I called the senator's office after I saw this because I don't get to hug my family. I don't get to go across country and see the people that I want to see or work or make money or do any of these things. And part of the reason why I don't get to do any of these things is because the Republican efforts to stay on top of coronavirus have been so abysmal that I can't really do anything. And I would very much like to. And the people standing in the way of Republicans doing whatever the fuck they want are Democrats.
Wait, no, that's incorrect.
Well, the people who are supposed to be in the way.
All right, now I understand what you're saying. So
Yeah.
I was confused because I haven't seen that in the last 6
Right,
months
and I'm
or so.
saying what I would like is for everyone in the Democratic Party to grow a set and stand up for something once in your life. I understand that standing for things means that you have to, at one point, make up for these things. Like, you stand for the Iraq War, like Dianne Feinstein did.
Yes.
And one day you're going to have to answer questions as to why you supported that thing.
Yeah.
So if you never stand on anything, you never have to ask questions.
by 10 points. And he's up by 10 points per the national polls because everyone is like, yeah, Trump can do the economy, but if I don't survive this thing, I don't care about the economy. And fracking jobs are great, but if I don't survive this thing, doesn't matter that I have a job in my industry. Like,
Yeah.
And it's not shifting hardcore people, but what we're seeing is that the number of undecideds is very low compared to previous elections.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this has been an issue, and I want to make sure we talk about it, Corey, because everyone is saying, yeah, but 2016. Yeah, but 2016. And I don't know how many times I can see Nate Silver on TV or hear him or something that he said be put on TV. But basically what he said is, first of all, we called Hillary losing in 2016. None of the news people wanted to hear it.
They didn't call her losing
On the
but
state-by-state basis, though.
Well, I mean, what they effectively said, just to be
Go ahead,
clear, is like
clarify,
they had a 20% chance of Trump winning, and they were very clear. Like, listen, this means that more likely than not, Hillary will win, but there's still a chance that Trump can siphon off enough states somehow and win, and that's what he did. He won Wisconsin and Michigan and all the swing states he needed.
Yeah,
and
it was
the
going to
election.
be a close electoral vote, no matter what.
Right.
And if he could swing just a couple of those.
Well, and, again, 10,000 votes in Michigan or Wisconsin changes this election.
Yep.
And Hillary wins instead. And, the other thing that people always seem to forget when they're like reapplying the 2016 map to this one is that people didn't want to vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
Like, there were people who liked Hillary for sure. There was a steady part of her base that were just like, I'm so happy she's running. I'm so happy to be voting for the first woman president, blah, 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 et cetera, like that. Most of the Democratic Party, though, was begrudgingly voting for Hillary.
Yes.
Like,
And
it's not, nobody's first choice was Hillary.
some
Like,
people, like me, just said, I'm not going to vote for her.
Yeah.
I refuse to. But that was also before we knew what Trump would be like as a president. It was a theoretical President Trump. And
Right.
now we know. And that is not as big of an impact because people are like begrudgingly yes, but also saying, I'm not sitting this one out. No.
Well, I mean, like Trump's waging a campaign like he's the competitor or like the opponent. Like,
yeah, like he's coming
Biden
in.
is the president.
Yeah.
Like, and it just doesn't work. Like his only hope is that he's the outcast insurgent who like comes out from nowhere. Like,
Yeah. But I mean, to address that problem, one, pollsters have refigured the way that they do the national number. The national number takes way more impact from local polls now because essentially what we saw, which by the way was correct, Hillary won the popular vote. Nationwide, she swung it by 2.3 million votes. But 10,000 votes in Wisconsin that went the other way changed the electoral outcome of that state, which helped change the Electoral College, which is, by the way, if you haven't listened to the latest episode of Rob Explains, how we elect a president. Your vote means very little on how we elect a president.
Yeah.
It only impacts your state. So, and you could win California by a margin of 95% to 5%.
you don't get more electoral college
only
votes.
gets you 54. That's what you're going to get. But the other part of this is that they are looking at local polls too. And I think that, again, not to kind of spike on CNN with this, but they're the ones that I have seen do the best job of this, where they're saying, okay, so let's say we're wrong. And let's say Trump does take Wisconsin, Ohio, Florida, Michigan. He's still at 248 because he's losing ground other places. By the way, if you're a Democrat running, there is nothing better than a goddamn astronaut running for Senate in a state who's your party leading you into your election, because the things that now his name escapes me, Mark
Kelly.
Mark Kelly has done in Arizona to be like, hey, you voted for John McCain, an American hero. I'm betting you voted for him because he was an American hero, not because he was Republican. I'm an American hero. You should vote for me.
Yeah.
And the people being like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat now. I'm going to vote for a Democrat. And then that somehow transferring. This week on the Oh the Anthem podcast, coming up on a big anniversary, we're going to talk about it. Election 2020, it just will not stop. Trump has a reaction this week, and the rest of the world has to react to him. How's that transition going? Well, Biden's looking older by the day. We'll discuss. 150,000 cases a day. States are shutting down. Travel advisories. It's the end of the world, folks. And thank you to COVID. Hey, it's about COVID's birthday, too. We should talk about that. A lot of news, some sports ball, all that coming up on this week's episode of the O The Anthem podcast. By the way, big shout out to Kim Ng for being the first general manager, female general manager in major sports. We'll talk about it.
It's our 4th anniversary in California, so I have to ask, where's our goddamn linen? This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 345 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from, once again, all over Los Angeles. Me in Hollywood, but Corey, of course, in the O The Anthem studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for voting. Thank you for voting, also, yes. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice, the easiest way. Anchor.fm/O The Anthem. It's where you can find the links to whatever podcatcher you listen to podcasts on. We don't discourage here what podcast app you listen. Anyone will do. Download, don't listen.
Download, don't listen. Bringing back the classic. So let me ask you, I could see you even though no one else could. Were you looking up what the 4th anniversary was right before the podcast?
Yes, I was. Did you see my face like all of a sudden get white and me like looking?
Yeah, you got like a panic and then turn the other way, start typing, and I'm like, he's looking something up, and then anniversary. Yes. Yeah. So right off the top, let's let me get my stuff straight here so I can actually do stuff, and I'm just gonna vamp for a second while I fill all that in. And Corey topic 2, Corey topic 1, we got it. Yep, that's it. Not that one though. Hey, and transition. So it's 4 years now that we've been doing the podcast. And Corey, I found
in
LA. Sorry, yes, in LA specifically. So we were just discussing this actually in the pre-show. I went on a trip in January of 2016. Corey had given me a book for Christmas that year, which I read while I was on vacation, which basically said, like, hey, if you want to do anything in Hollywood, you have to be in Hollywood. Joke's on us 4 years later. But Hollywood Drive, is that what it's called? Hollywood Drive.
Yeah.
And so then I came back from vacation and I was just like, hey, so I think we should move to Hollywood. And Corey had been in LA. Was it 2 years before that?
3 years.
3 years
during the
before
summer of 2013.
To come to film school.
Correct.
And he was like, oh, I've been thinking about going back. You should do it. And so basically, because I had an epiphany on a beach in the Dominican Republic, we decided to move to LA. And the photo I really wanted to bring out, one is at the top when I can't remember where that was.
That was in Chicago.
At the deep dish place?
No. So when we first got there, we were all really hungry.
Yeah.
And we were just like asking the person, like, what's good that's like in the neighborhood here? And I think it was like it was cheese related. Oh,
it was like cheesy dogs and cheesy tots and yeah.
Yeah, like I think part of their restaurant theme was like cheese of the US.
Yeah.
And you could get like Wisconsin mac and cheese or something like that. I don't quite remember exactly what it was called, but they had chalk tables or blackboard tables where you could write on chalk on them.
And so he wrote that.
That was that image.
But the more important one is at the bottom, because this popped up on my time hop this week, and I started doing a little mental math, and I was like, wait, that's not right. And so I said it to Corey, and I'm like, wait, when did we start versus when did we move? And so come to find out, we did about 30 months of episodes in Baltimore. And then we're coming up on 4 years in LA, which would be 48. Nope, that's not right. Yes, 48 48 months.
I think we had this conversation a year ago too when it came up on Time Hop of it being like we've now passed the point where we're no longer inside of. We spent more time here than there, you know?
The other thing I've thought about is that Joe Biden in 94 was 51. I was 10, and it feels like it's forever ago. Like that. There's no way it could have been 30 years ago. But, apparently it was, because I'm getting old and my memory is lacking somewhat.
It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us.
Apparently so. So it just occurred to me, I guess, again, for the second time, that we've been in L.A. longer than we were in Baltimore so far as the podcast is concerned.
Right. And I mean, like, obviously, you know, I was born in Baltimore in 84, so I have a bit more time in Baltimore prior to the podcast starting. But
if you count the first 18 years that I was in Maryland, I spent 7 of those years in New York. I spent a year in D.C. I guess Baltimore still counts as Maryland, even though it's, you know, not exactly the same thing. But,
well, I mean, like, we don't usually count the Eastern Shore as part of Maryland.
Right,
You're just
exactly.
Extended Delaware.
Well, so, I mean, if that's the
and
case,
Delaware
then,
is, of course, like a property that is, well, technically its own state, just, you know, basically Maryland Junior. It's
the place you drive through on the way to those beaches.
It's like D.C. It's like, it's not a real place. It's just, it's basically Maryland, but we lent it out to the rest of the world.
But if I add up 7 years in New York, 4 years in L.A., 1 year in D.C., that means I am almost at the point of having lived in somewhere else longer than I lived in Maryland.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Good progress has been made. But yeah, so the technically the 22nd will be 4 years, which would be Sunday. And we did a podcast while we were on the road on the way out here. So that was the first one that wasn't in Baltimore. And then that would have actually been tomorrow or Wednesday. Tomorrow I should listen to this.
We did that like a stop along, like we broke out the recording equipment like every step along the way, basically.
Yeah.
And like recorded from each stop. So I think right now, technically 4 years ago, we were in Detroit because that's what I was seeing on Time Hop this morning.
That would make sense. So the trip was Baltimore to Detroit, Detroit to Chicago, Chicago to Lincoln, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska to
It was Des
Denver.
Moines, wasn't it? Or no?
It was Chicago to Nebraska, Nebraska to Denver, Denver to Las Vegas, 2 nights in Vegas, and then here.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a long trip. It's a long trip.
Yeah, and I think fondly about it now that we've been trapped inside our houses. I think more and more about how I'm going to have great adventures like this again one day when I'm allowed to journey out beyond the safe confines of my house.
I wish vacation time because I'm at the point now where I lose every pay period. I gain 8 hours and I lose 8 hours of vacation, and I'm like, okay, so kind of pointless. I wish I could just keep banking it though, because I would really like to just take like 6 months off work and just go drive for 6 months paid. Wait till my apartment lease is up and then just don't get a new lease and just go out for a
Let
vacation.
the road take you.
Yeah, for a paid vacation for a couple months. And I think right now I can actually do 4 months. I think I have 4 months worth of vacation, sick, and PTO time that I could take.
I always like that whenever we get jobs that give us vacation time, we always think about like how we could take it all in one bulk. And then you think about like going to your boss and going like, I'm taking 4 months off of paid vacation. It's just like, fuck no, you weren't.
We'll see you in 3 weeks today. 3 weeks today. Good luck. All right. Enjoy your vacation. Also,
you're gonna have 4 months over the course of the next 4 years. Like,
I have the distinct worry that like at this point, I feel as though I am irreplaceable, but I don't want them to know that I'm not. So if I took 4 months off and everything was fine, and it's like, yeah, so 4 months later, turns out we actually don't need you here that often. So we're gonna talk about separating.
I think I found that with Nelson's too. Like as soon as I went away for film school a little bit, they realized like, oh, we can do this without Corey.
Never a good realization you want to be
somehow we managed to do it without him, so clearly it's possible. Like,
yeah, I mean the worst or the best thing that could happen is I come back after 4 months, the building has been burned to the ground, and there's still for some reason just bosses with faces covered in cinders, and they turn around and be like, oh, thank God you're back. Something happened.
What will it take? What will it take?
We're gonna rebuild. That's the good news. But also, you can never take a vacation ever again, because clearly we can't be trusted with with all of this. But yeah. So 4 years in, 6 years of the podcast, going up on year number 7 in April. And it's just crazy to think. It's crazy to think we've been in LA longer than we were in Maryland, because Maryland felt like such a long period. But I think it's one of those things where, like, as you get older, the years tend to fly by, and it's because when you're young, you don't have any years to compare it to. So summer feels like it's forever, but it's November. It's November right now. We got locked away in March.
I also think it's limited to the amount of time that, like, so I think the time that I've spent in LA feels like it's taken a lot more time than, like, at any other 4-year stretch of my life. Like, it feels like LA, it is longer than the time I was at Hofstra, but it feels like way longer than the time I was at Hofstra, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I
feel like because there was, I feel like it was a combination of being drunk a lot in Hofstra, or being in some way predisposed. Yeah. And the second part being that, like, there's boring parts, like the class, you know, like, like that part doesn't, like, hit in your memory as much as little things about LA have seeped into my memory, you know? Like,
I'm just realizing I have to hit Zach up for that video of the bowl on the floor of Estabrook.
I have it.
Do you? Oh, hey, you should post that so everybody can see.
It has been posted.
Is it? Oh, fantastic. But so 4 years in, you, and it was interesting because we were also talking at the beginning about how you're in the apartment that we moved into when we first moved to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been homeless twice and moved twice, three times, a lot. So I think it, for you, especially for you and Rachel, you have, like, a different feeling, because it's like, I even said I got to go home when I was leaving Maryland. And I don't know for sure, but that might have been the first time that I didn't say, like, oh, I got to go back to LA, as opposed to, like, going home. I said, I think I have to go to my parents. I'm going to my parents for the weekend. And then when I left there, I said I'm going home. And I haven't seen all 7 of the things that you have to see in order to be a true
Angelino.
LA. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm well on the way with the, like, okay, so now it's not about moving home anymore. It's like, do I have to move back to my parents? Because here is home.
If you wait long enough, then Rachel will carry around Brooks on a little, like, stroller, so you'll be able to knock that one off the list.
Oh, wait, to be fair, we've seen Carly in a cart. So
yeah.
I think that kind of counts, because during the workday, she was just being moved around the apartment in the clacks.
Yeah.
I'm going to count that.
Dogs like the clacks. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I feel like we should reach out to the people at Clacks and let them know, and they'd just be like, God, don't use our product for that.
It's extremely unsafe. It could have some bad could happen to your dog. And speaking of dogs, did we mention? Oh yeah, you showed Brooks on the last episode.
Yeah.
Well, Brooks also now has his own social media, so we'll have to be sure to post that so you can.
Yeah, we're still working on that, but Brooks the Shih Tzu, I think, is the handle on Instagram.
There you go. And there's some extremely cute pictures of an extremely cute dog and a very jealous older dog, and a mother of that dog who takes everything very personally about, like, no, my dog is just as cute. I don't know why you're making such a big deal. She does cute things too.
Carly is cute. Carly just has sort of like a who the fuck is this person kind of face all the time. Like,
well,
it's like it's a De Niro face. Like, it's like Carly is basically doing De Niro and Meet the Parents. Like, constantly like, are you something wrong with you, fucker? Like,
well, that's because Carly thinks that she's a real human being. She's been treated as a human her entire life, so she's like, why is this other furry thing here? What do we need this for?
Well, it's also like Carly is like so behaved, and even though Brooks is very well behaved for being 8 weeks old, he's still a puppy, so he still like runs around and plays and stuff like that. And she like looks at us like uncivilized children, like Like she should have a cigarette on the end of a long plastic cigarette holder. Like children these days.
I mean, she basically is turning into what is her name? Dame Judi Dench. She's basically Dame Judi Dench at this point. So, I mean, I could totally see that happening. But
did I ever tell you the story about my mom running into Sophia Loren in New York?
Oh God, no. Wait,
So-
was this in the 90s or was it like?
No, this was when my mom was living in New York in the 70s. So late 70s, I would say. I don't know exactly the time. But
Sophia Loren was in her early 60s at this point, and
in her prime.
still
well
looking
in her
amazing.
prime. So anyway, my mom was walking down the street. She had her camera with her, and she saw Sophia Loren, and she was walking into some store, and she was just like, "Oh, can I get a picture? Can I get a picture?" And she's like, "On my way out, if you can catch me, darling." And she walks into the store, and then later, my mom just stands on the sidewalk for 10 minutes or whatever until she comes back out. And then as Sophia Loren is walking back out, she's like posing for pictures, and she's like, "What?" Like doing little like face as she like walks to her car. And sometimes I feel like that's like Carly's thing. Like she's like,
All right. I'll stop your pictures here.
"Carly, can we get a picture? Only if you can catch me, darling."
So you just got to learn, because Brooks is just like, "Hey, I'm cute. Want to take a picture? Hey, what's up? Hey."
Brooke sees the camera. He's just like, "Hey, hi."
The camera loves me. But yeah, so Brooks on social media. Carly's already on social media at carly.crz, so check that out. It's being updated a lot more often for some reason in the last few days. I don't know what that could be.
Well, it's because the Carly Girl album has been filled with pictures of interlopers, so
So they got to make a point of it.
yeah. By the way, I like how I'm going through this problem because now Google Photos has trouble identifying between two different Shih Tzus, one that's a puppy and one that's not. So I had to take off the automatic uploading of every picture into the Carly Girl album.
Well, yes,
every
because
Shih Tzu season.
do not put that other dog in my dog's album. Delete.
But the what was it? Oh fuck. But then you sent me a whole bunch of like pictures that you had taken from like memes or like pictures off the television. It's just like, is this Corey?
So Google Photos
Like-
thought a crying Indian boy and Dwight Schrute were Corey. It's like, is this Corey? Looks kind of like him. And then the winner of all of those, though, is Katya being confused for the wife from Wolf of Wall Street. I forget. Margot Robbie, but specifically that image, the one from
Right. It
Wall
was
Street.
like a screenshot.
I don't know what he's doing. Lock that down, man. What is in your brain?
Well, come back from Mexico and then quarantine for 2 weeks and then deal with it.
Yeah, by the way, we're gonna have to go through this all again when he comes back from Mexico, because then you will have been infected by him, unless you're gonna like tape off his room. You could just do the plastic wrap and just wrap the entire door, and then create like some sort of feed through where you can put his bowl of cereal.
Or like make it like I Love Lucy and split the apartment in half and just like put up the plastic on this.
Yeah, but you'd get the half with the kitchen and the TV and the bedroom, and so
The balcony.
he would have the
we're just partitioning off his room. Yeah. More or less.
But anyway, so we have more to talk about than just our
He's
personal
like,
lives.
Can I go? He's like, I need to go check the mail. I'm just like, sorry, can't
Nah.
cross this line. Can't cross the border here.
Doors on our side. Quarantine means stay in your apartment.
Sorry about your luck.
Would be an important thing for people to realize. But we'll talk about COVID in a bit. Before we get to that, we have to talk about the ongoing thing that is the 2020 election. Most specifically, the president's reaction to the 2020 election. And this is, I think, the most telling image to come out of this entire election process. And this thing that you see to my side here is a list of Trump tweets. And don't worry, I didn't go to Trump's tweets because I don't want to do that. But I did go to a website where somebody was talking about his tweets, and I stole their screenshot. So, but this is what they're doing now. They are just basically saying, he posts a tweet. The first tweet here it's actually from a couple weeks ago, but big press conference today in Philadelphia at Four Seasons, total landscaping. Oh, this was the correct.
Yeah. Nothing wrong about that tweet. Flag that one, Twitter.
Meme of the week was somebody who had their yard being done by Four Seasons, and they had like the trailer parked out front, and it was like, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity.
They're taking advantage though. They are putting together T-shirts and stuff like they have
Wouldn't
a
you?
Law and Order
Yeah.
T-shirt. Make America Rake Again, I think was one of theirs. Like it's pretty good. They're capital. I always like it when a small business like this can totally capitalize on the situation.
I have not liked. I think we talked about it last year when we went home for Christmas, and a lot of Maryland was like, choose us for your plumbing and choose Trump again in 2020. And I'm like, nope, not using you. But I will take the punny advertisements by the company that got roped into this for no reason, clearly.
It also sounded like the call that was involved in booking it was like, are you guys available for a press conference today? And it's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like,
I mean, we don't have a conference room. We have the parking lot. We'll take it. It's fine. Is the sign out there? Are we going to be able to see the sign? Yes. Okay, we got it.
good enough.
George, I just got the weirdest call. The president's coming here? I don't know.
Rudy Giuliani and somebody on the sex offender registry is going to be showing up.
Aren't those the same person? Hit it, Manny. Hey. But so what they've done is basically Twitter has censored the president. And I use this as an example just because his first tweet is relatively normal. It's just making a point. And then he follows it up with a bunch of like, the election is fraud and people are voting who shouldn't have voted. And Twitter's just basically like, nope, we're not showing you any of this. So you don't get to see it. And that has continued for the last 2 weeks, as has his ranting. I'm getting more and more worried about a barricade in the West Wing with a gun and kind of situation happening in January. Like he's inching more closer and closer to the crazy side of the spectrum.
I think at some point, he maybe after the Senate runoff in Georgia, he will come to his senses, or he'll be like, there's no point in fighting this anymore. Like, I'm just going to run again in 4 years, blah, blah, blah. I already got Loeffler and Perdue elected in Georgia. So,
yeah,
like, I feel like the Republicans are doing this act where, you know, if anyone else in the world had done this, they would have been like, shut the fuck up and concede, because you're going to make us all look bad. But for this one, they're trying so desperately to like placate his ego in this regard.
Well,
even though nothing, like, you know, it's like when you're watching a football game and like, you know, it's like the Dolphins and the Titans, and the Dolphins are winning by 30 and there's 2 minutes left and the Titans are still like gunning, like throwing Hail Marys. It's like, dude, give up. Like there's no way. Like the score is too big. Like even if you were to successfully get like touchdowns on the first Hail Mary that you threw every time, and you got 4 onside kicks, and you like, it's like, just run it out. Just like, you're done. Like, it's cool. Like,
but I mean, listen,
from time to time.
All the fantasy players out there right now are screaming at you like, no, they should absolutely not do that. In fact,
I have Ryan Tannehill on my fantasy team, you motherfucker.
Have Tua just launch it downfield. A couple of 90-yard receptions for touchdowns would do me really well. I have Tua on my team, but he's been on the bench a lot.
Shouldn't be anymore, probably.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But you make an interesting point, because I'm just realizing as you're talking there that people in Georgia who are going to go vote for the Democratic candidates are voting for something. And without Trump, the Republicans are really voting just against. Because Perdue and Loeffler aren't really the most likable people, and they're very strong Trumpers. So without Trump kind of saying, like, we're still in this, pay attention to me, and I'll go vote for my people in Georgia, that might end up being a blowout.
I mean, I think this Georgia election is going to be really weird. I would imagine that you're going to get most of the same sort of Democratic turnout you would get in the presidential election, because I feel like the stakes are properly raised for all those people. But you'll get some sort of fall off. But the question is how much of the Republican vote falls off too. You know, like when Doug Jones beat Roy Moore in Alabama, it wasn't because Doug Jones was like so much of a better candidate than Roy Moore, even though he was. It was because a certain number of Republicans decided they weren't going to show up. because like Roy Moore was just too toxic. Like it just wasn't enough to go for him. So Doug Jones barely squeaked by in that because so many Republicans decided to sit it out.
And that's what they're trying to avoid, though. Keep
right.
Trump
And
in
the question is, do they had their like million MAGA march on Saturday or whatever down in DC. There still seems to be a general excitement for the president as a person in public life and stuff like that. But I just don't. I will never understand it. I've lived through this, and for the rest of my life, I'm never going to properly understand like what about Trump is so fascinating to people. Like,
well, it's owning the libs. I think you brought it up last week. It's not really about Trump. It's that he owns the libs, and I want a guy who owns the libs. Not knowing, and most of these people are too dumb to realize that Mitch McConnell has far more owned the libs than Trump ever will in his storied career.
But McConnell will own the libs because he will do whatever he needs to do to get a win for the Republicans in whatever way he sees fit. Like, whether or not that be, stacking the court with a bunch of judges or, trying to block Obama from getting things done. He does things to own the libs that are only beneficial to him. Like, he would not have time for, the camps down on the border or anything like that. Like he will politely let Trump just handle that. Like he's not going to interfere. He's not gonna say it's wrong or anything, but he wouldn't do that on his own, because there's no political benefit for him to do so.
Well, I mean, but speaking of which, he is doing that kind of right now.
With the judges?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we would be stupid to think that McConnell was not going to try and shove through every single available opportunity through the lame duck. And I don't imagine. It used to be when you were a candidate who lost an election and you were going to go back to private life, you didn't want to vote for things in lame duck unless it was super important, because people would say, like, oh, we had voted for Rob, but we voted him out in this recent election, but he's still voting for things even though we've said that we don't want him anymore, So like there's this place where you have to be when you're voting on things in lame duck session, where you have to say to yourself, is this absolutely necessary? Like, if they wanted to put through pandemic response, I imagine that would be a reasonable enough point to have, somebody have a lame duck vote. But shoving through, 15th Court of Appeals justice who, the American Bar Association says is, absolutely unqualified to be a lawyer, let alone a judge. Those things don't seem as necessary and relevant, but McConnell is going to just push him through because he can. He might lose the Senate in January, so this might be his last chance to stack that deck.
So yeah, I was going to say, I think that the historical nature of the lame duck period was really just like, okay, so now I, Republican senator, have nothing to lose except for to be the good guy and maybe win again in 2, 4, 6 years whenever there's another election to the Senate. 6 years for your own seat, but every state has 2, and no 2 are in the same election unless somebody leaves their post, which is why Georgia has 2 right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm a Republican senator who didn't get elected this year, or if I had my election and lost, now I'm thinking, what's post-Trump? And do I want to be the one Republican, 2, I guess 3 that we need now, who crosses the border and says, you know what, pandemic relief is very important. I'm going to vote for this. And then you get to be the guy who's like, there was 3 Republicans who voted for pandemic relief in December of 2020. I was one of them. And when my replacement got in there, he didn't do anything to help you for 6 years. Send me back to the Senate.
To be honest, your best chance of something like that happening would have been if somebody who was really hated lost their seat.
Yeah.
So like if Lindsey Graham or Susan Collins or somebody like that had lost their election and they were going to be in lame duck, then I could totally see Lindsey Graham going like, I got to make this count. Yeah. like going out on talk shows, and besides saying that Trump is right for challenging the election, it's saying things like, like the American people deserve the things that we give to them to survive this time period. Like, he would totally about face to try and make good on it. But I mean, right now, I look at every Republican who enabled Trump to be just as bad as Trump. So it's not like in 4 years from now, when Marco Rubio runs for president again, or Lindsey Graham runs for president again, I'm going to go like, oh, totally forgot about everything they've ever done. Like, I'm going to remember that you were totally okay with Trump. Like, you said you were not okay with him at the beginning, and then he won, and then you were okay with him, and then you defended him to the death. You know, like Rubio was at campaign events like as recently as like, you know, the week before the election. So,
hey, how about Ted Cruz? Who he called your wife names, and in the same election cycle, you went and voted for him.
Said your father shot JFK or was involved in the assassination of JFK.
And I mean, listen, there is murder in his blood, but that's because he is the Golden State Killer. Or no,
Zodiac
Killer.
Yeah, don't confuse them.
He's the Zodiac Killer. But I mean, it's when Ted Cruz inevitably runs again in 4 years, which he will, unless something happens in Texas to get rid of him. But no, he's good for the next presidential election. Would be his Senate year too.
Yeah, so he would have to give up that seat if he wanted to run for president.
Because no, Kamala wasn't up. Yeah,
he can't run for both.
Yeah, you could run for both. And
I don't
then
think effectively.
If you win, no, I mean obviously not. But if you win both, then you would just step down from your seat and they would fill it with somebody else. It would happen in a place where it's like trying to think of a native son or a native daughter who could do that. But there's not really a good one. There's not really a great example.
If John Waters wants to run for senator in Maryland.
When John McCain ran for president, the likelihood is he would have also been the Republican choice on the ballot, because they're like, this state is pushing blue and we want to keep the seat, and then we'll appoint somebody for 6 years or until there's a special election held to replace him. But I want to keep this seat in the presidential year if we can. But it wasn't his re-election year, so he got to avoid that. Mostly candidates like to avoid that. Unless you're a congressman, then you can't do both. But unless Josh Lyman is running your campaign, I don't know how you're going to push out a win for the House member.
The big problem though right now is that obviously the Republicans are being ridiculous. They're, you know, Trump specifically is just every single lawsuit, every single thing that he's fighting in court is not beneficial to him at all, because you're talking about so few votes. Your hope is that a big swath of votes would come your way. And like, so I was just reading it before the podcast started. There was they found a bunch of votes in Georgia that they tried to upload to the main server. It was on an SD card.
Oh, okay.
And they tried to upload it to the server and it failed. So there were 2,600 or so votes that were not sent along to the Georgia Secretary of State on election day. And of those votes, it like basically went net 800 to Trump.
Okay.
So, you know, like we just found 800 votes for Trump in the state of Georgia during their recount process. And by the way, they already knew about this because they looked at like the number of votes that they had sent in and the number of votes that they had. And there was a problem. So they knew that there were outstanding votes they needed to figure out, but they couldn't figure out where it was until they went deeper into it, until they did the recount, basically. The
thing that they have recounts for. This is the process at work. It's like, we're missing some. Actually, I don't think Georgia called it. The media called Georgia for Biden.
Well, no state has officially called the election. I mean, like no states.
Delaware has.
Oh, has it certified already?
So they certify.
It's only like 40 people, so it's pretty easy to.
They certify the Wednesday, the first full Wednesday following Election Day is their Electoral College Day, where they certify results and the electors cast their vote. And they do that because they are the first state and they want to continue to be the first state. So like New Hampshire, they vote first and they get the first primary, but Delaware certifies first. They also are allowed to do that because they have like 900,000 people living in the entire state. But easy to do.
It's really easy for Delaware.
And they actually have for a Democratic state especially, they have restrictive laws about like mail-in ballots have to be in by Election Day. It doesn't matter about the postmark, so it has to be in. So people have to play in advance, and basically on Election Day you have all of your ballots, all 900,000 ballots you have to count, which was like a half a day of counting for Pennsylvania.
They got 20 people in the room just like going through.
We're just gonna bang through this real quick. All right.
We'll be done by lunch.
But yeah, so maybe more important than the election itself is the transition, and I have a very important question to ask you, Corey.
Okay.
Is it me, or is Joe Biden aging really horribly? It looks to me as if he is aging terribly and a lot in a very short amount of time, but maybe it's just me.
I think it might be just you, because most of what I think people see of Biden is in ideal lighting situations where he's like, at a town a debate or a town hall or something like that, where they have lighting and cameras and makeup and stuff like that to accentuate him the best he can. He still looks old in those things, but like, it's not quite the same as like a press pool photographer taking a shot of him at some sort of, events that.
This image that people are looking at now.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Or
like
Skeletor looks like he won our democratic process.
I don't think he looks any older than he has in any of the past couple of months. But, like, this is what you get when you nominate two 70-year-olds to run for president. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
and I just have to repeat,
if it was Pete Buttigieg up on that stage, I don't think we'd be saying about how horribly he looks like he's aged.
Okay, now I have to make 2 points. One of which is I said Buttigieg from the beginning, and none of you all listened to me. And if you had, we wouldn't be here today. But 2, can we stop nominating cis white men in their 70s for president?
I will have you know I was very excited about Buttigieg from the beginning.
Liar!
No.
Lies! Go to the tape!
Pretty much the same exact time that you were saying Buttigieg, I was saying Buttigieg. And we did a podcast episode where we picked like our 5 favorites or something like that, people we wanted to run for president. It was prior to people starting to throw their hat in the ring, and you had Buttigieg on that list.
I did.
And I gave it to you because we were going back and forth on the picks. I think I gave him up for Booker. I was like, Cory Booker's going to win this thing. I'm not worried. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Although he'll probably get something in the administration, honestly. And
I don't know if you'd want to give up that Senate seat. Like
that's the problem.
People are talking about Elizabeth Warren going into the administration. I'm just like, dummies, you're losing a Democratic seat held by a Republican governor.
Yep.
And a state held by a Republican governor. Like, if one of the Maryland senators decided to join the Biden administration, then Larry Hogan gets to pick the person who fills that seat. And he's not going to pick a Democrat just because it's a Democrat state. He's going to pick Dan Bongino or some shit like that.
A name I thought I'd never have to hear again. But there will be a special election.
Just as an aside fact, because Dan Bongino is like the #1 shared person on Facebook for like the last year. Yeah. Oh my God. Look at the most shared things on Facebook, and like 8 out of 10 of them are without fail Dan Bongino.
I don't want to go there.
And all I think about is like how he got fucking curb stomped when he ran for Congress. Usually in elections you don't see people like it was like watching there were 3 people in that race. I can't remember who it was. There were 3 people in that race, but they were basically treating him like Steve Buscemi in The Big Lebowski. Like anytime he'd shut up, they'd be like, "Shut up, Dan, you're out of your element." So he got fucking
Senate.
He got fucking thrashed. I can't even remember, because it was like one of those elections where 2 Republicans decided that they were going to run against one Democrat who had. It's one of those districts, or it was like, no, it was for the Senate.
Yeah, he's run multiple races and has
he's
yet
run
to
a
be
lot.
elected to anything. So
never gotten more than like 10% of the vote in any election he's ever run. But
I mean, that makes sense. That
Perfectly
he's downloaded on
content
Facebook.
being able to tell everyone else why they're doing everything wrong.
Absolute sense that people on Facebook thinks he's a genius and he can't get elected to shit. So.
Hey, Ryan Leaf wants to talk about the NFL. I think we should listen.
So transition to get back on topic, because I realize we're already at like 40 minutes now. So
oh, word.
So Biden looks old. We should stop again. No older than Trump though. I don't think that there's that like a huge difference. Let me pull up Skeletor's picture again. Hang on. So I mean, he looks older.
77 to 73 or something like that. So there's like a 4-year difference between them.
But it's not as though he's that much different. And by the way, have you seen? I saw a side by side of Trump in 2016 and Trump now. He is 100% getting that presidential aging, where like you age so much faster when you're president. But he's also such a master. He's also such a user of like cover up and tanner and stuff that it looks almost the same. But then they're like, wait, let's zoom in. And then you see that like, oh, he's just caking stuff on so that he doesn't look as old as he probably looks in the mirror.
Well, the one I've noticed especially is the hair, because Trump, even through 2016, was doing that blonde hair thing that he was doing. Like, it's not a real blonde.
No.
But it's like a blonde that he feels like he can pull off. And he was clearly going to a hairdresser every so often and just getting it touched up
weekly. Yeah.
But but now he can't go to the hairdresser like that. Or it's just not allowed as much anymore, because he's definitely graying a little bit. It's definitely like a graying blonde.
Well,
like,
you can't call out Nancy Pelosi.
He's only able to do it like every 3 weeks instead of every week. So
you can't call out Nancy Pelosi for going to the hairdresser and then get seen at a hairdresser. It just doesn't work.
I don't give a fuck about Nancy Pelosi. She can go suck dick. I don't give a shit. Like, it's just like Newsom too. Like, Newsom went to a friend's birthday party at the French Laundry, which is a $400 a plate dining experience in Napa Valley.
Yep. It's also a dining experience inside where we're not supposed to be eating. Thanks,
technically it was outside. Newsom was like, well, we didn't really violate any rules except for having more than 3 households in one plate.
That's a rule. Just because you've been, sewn into your suits. And I also noticed he has grown his hair out a little bit. He's still slicking it back, but it is starting to get a little longer. And I'm like, is that your way of saying, like, even I have gone without haircuts to my $400 a plate birthday dinner?
We'll see. We'll see how much longer he lets it go. Because at a certain point, when you, as somebody who grows their hair out with some regularity, like, there's a point where it just gets too long and you're just like, can't do it anymore. Gotta fucking cut it.
I'm going to give Gavin
Unless you're specifically saying to yourself, like, I'm not going to the barber because I'm worried I might get COVID.
I'm going to give Gavin
Which
Newsom
is like where I am at the moment.
I'm giving Gavin Newsom the same advice I'm going to give you. Cut it. Cut it.
It's
Look at
not
this.
worth it.
That is my fifth at-home haircut. I'm getting real good at this. I'm getting real good at it.
So people at home may not know, unless you're curly haired like me, but this is not a straightforward operation. This requires specialist hands, I'm
gonna go dig into my photos.google.com and find the picture of you with the shaved head from like 2009. No, earlier than that, 2005.
Whatever,
maybe?
something like that. Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, just shave it. Do what I do. I'm at the point I'm about to go like order an actual like hair trimmer set, because I've been using my beard trimmer on this and it's not as accurate as I would like. I'm like, all right, so I need something that's around 8 millimeters. What do I have? 5 and 12. All right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with the 12, and then I'm going to do the little like just the edges, try to get down a little bit. Just get down a little bit, yeah. And then I end up with this line across the back of my head that's crooked and going towards my dominant hand. I'm going to get the set, and you know what? I'll come over and I will buzz your head. I can't do any worse than Floyd's Barbershop did with your hair, all right?
I'll be fine. Floyd's has done me right. There was the other place that charged too much for a really awful haircut. Gave me the Kim Jong-un. Rob's dead now.
Yeah, it was the Kim Jong-un. That was the hairstyle. Shaved on the side, fold over on the top. It was a good look, though. Rachel liked it.
Well, the undercut is popular, and this is what I get for anytime I ever like look into like doing something that popular people like. I'm just like, I always look like an idiot.
Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, Corey.
Yeah, just do what I like. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Go back to my days of wearing Jinko jeans.
Oh man. But if the 80s are making a comeback now, you know what's next? The 90s are coming. Jinkos are gonna come back. I'm gonna be wearing like the 38-inch waist with the 52-inch pipes on the bottom.
And a chain wallet.
Yeah, just say, pants big enough that a small child can hide in the leg of your pant leg if they have to.
I wonder why we haven't extended this everything coming back thing to a phone case that connects to a chain that connects to your belt.
I think
because I feel like
you have just come up with something amazing and patent pending. Because I guarantee you there are hipsters out there who would 100% rock the chain to the. I'm gonna design that. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go to hottopic.com, not to a Hot Topic, because I don't even know if the stores exist.
I'm gonna buy a chain wallet. I'm gonna break off the wallet. I'm gonna buy a case. I'm gonna glue them together.
And you know what? Shark Tank, here I come, baby. That's it. I'm going on Shark Tank. No, you guys don't understand because you're too old, but kids are gonna love these.
Mark Cuban, I got the thing for you.
Mark Cuban probably still rocks a chain wallet. When you have like $9 billion, do you give a shit?
He's the only one on Shark Tank I know. I've never like really watched that show. I just know that like
there's the lady from the pay commercials, the HR website or HR app commercials. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
No, you probably don't. God, she's blonde, and then there's like there's the bald.
I mean, there's
guy.
like a bald guy. Yeah, I mean, like I know of like if I was walking into a room and Shark Tank was on mute, I would be able to say, "Oh, that's Shark Tank."
Yeah,
but it's not like I know anyone other than Mark Cuban by name in that group. You know.
Fair enough. The richest, most powerful people in the country, and Corey doesn't know.
I feel like there was a commercial with the bald one too, where he was just like, "Hi, I'm Dick Johnson from Shark Tank."
So I think there was, but he was actually promoting a product that he invested
I feel like it was on like
Shark
CNN
Tank.
or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that one. And it was like, you may have seen this on Shark Tank, and then it's like, oh wait, so you invested and now you're the face of this thing? Like, how bad is this product? Wait,
gotta get my investment back.
Yeah.
But real quick, just on the transition.
Yes.
At what point in your mind, if you're Ron Klain, you're the senior guy inside the Biden administration, the incoming Biden administration.
Yeah.
You are being kicked out of talking to the current heads of all the departments that you have to coordinate the transition with.
Whoever's left. Yeah.
Yeah. At what point do you stop being nice about this and just start like insisting that things start happening here? Because I feel like December is usually high gear for transition stuff. Yep. Like sort of the month leading up to Christmas becomes high gear for transition. And then post Christmas, you get like that last push, but you really want to have like 80% of the work done pre-Christmas kind of thing.
Yep.
Traditionally speaking, because like things slow down from Christmas to New Year's. Obviously, there's still work being done, but it's like you want to have the bulk of it done by Christmas.
Oh, it's done by the underlings. It's like, I'm going to go on Christmas vacation. You should work.
Oh yeah, I mean, like clearly they're all. Anyone who's getting business cards from the White House is going to take vacation during the Christmas to New Year's part of the thing. And
yeah. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. We forget because Obama made up the office of the president-elect, which wasn't a thing, but he had like a whole placard made and like office of the president-elect, and it was a good move on his part. But historically, it's been really friendly, and people have done it, but there is no holding under law that creates this transition. It's from middle of the 19th century, early 20th century, did it.
There's like unofficial things. Like there's money put aside for transition within the budget.
But who releases that money?
Well, the presidency does.
Only the president of the United States. And everything that Biden needs to see is classified. And who declassifies things?
The president.
President of the United States. And until he is president, there is no requirement that they do anything. Now, that means you start on, in the batter's box, not really even in the batter's box. You start in the dugout up in the clubhouse on day one, which is not ideal. But if you are Trump and you're running in 2024, don't you want to be able to say, like, wasted the first 2 years of his presidency? I don't know what he was
trying
doing.
To get things in order.
Yeah, I got more done in the last 2 months of my presidency. We put 127 judges on courts around the country. But after his presidency started, 2 years and nothing. So why are you going to give him another shot? Or his vice president, who will probably be the one running in 4 years?
I think we're about a week away from the sternly worded press release of we need to move past this.
And what to do.
And then a week following that will be the even more sternly worded press release.
And
then,
what's that do?
Yeah, I know. I'm saying this is where I imagine we're going to be over the next couple weeks, where it's just going to be Biden transition people going like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
And
like, sorry, can't hear you over the sound of the music.
There are people in the administration who seem open to doing a transition, but won't without the president's authority. And if they start doing that, he will fire them, which he's done in the last few weeks. And it's like, all right, person who's underneath, you get to be secretary now. Do you want to keep doing this? Nope. No, I'm good. No transition.
Well, he fired Esper and then pulled a bunch of troops from Afghanistan, and apparently Republicans are upset about that. But how upset could they possibly be? Because they're just going to let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
Not going to do anything about it. And obviously,
speaking of doing whatever the fuck you want, COVID news.
Oh, see, you missed the transition there, because I was going to go the other way and say it could be a problem with having, no one in place, because then you put temporary people in place and then you become the acting Chad.
We get acting Chad first.
Yeah, let's just jump to that because we were talking about administration stuff. But Corey's favorite person, acting Chad, back in the news.
Chad Wolf, acting Chad. So. We joke around about him being acting Chad, but that's because he was not confirmed by the Senate, and
will not be at this point.
Will never be confirmed by the Senate. Has not been and will not be confirmed by the Senate. And now federal judges are saying that apparently that has to happen before you're allowed to do things. So, basically everything that Chad Wolf has put forward as DHS secretary is going to be no mas, because he doesn't have the legal authority to hold the office or do anything with the office, because he wasn't legally allowed to hold it to begin with. So
because he didn't have the advice and consent of the Senate.
Yeah.
And this is a difficult thing to happen now. Funny for us, but difficult because now if Mitch McConnell holds the Senate, meaning that both of the Democrats lose and both Republicans win in Georgia.
Or just one of them wins.
Or even
it doesn't
one.
even have to be. Yeah, I mean, it could be Purdue and Warnock that go on, but, McConnell will still have a 51-49.
Unless you get somebody reasonable in the Senate, like I want to say Mitt Romney, but who knows? Collins, but who knows? Who'll cross over and be like, But the point is that they could just not confirm anyone for Joe Biden at all. And just be like, okay, nothing that your DHS does is legal. Nothing your Defense Department does is legal. Nothing anyone does is legal because they're not confirmed.
Yeah.
And so that's dangerous. This was a dangerous tool for them to give Mitch McConnell if he does hold the majority. But funny, because basically Chad Wolf has been hard. He's probably been the hardest working member of the
He's the only one who's trying to do the job. Yeah.
He's like, I'm qualified. I'm actually going to do the job. There's a guy at Post, at USPS, who doesn't even know what day of the week it is. And I'm here doing my job, and you're going to question me. Also, he looks a bit like a supermodel. If you could just see that, that's him.
Nah, I don't agree with that at all. He looks like Daryl Issa.
I feel like he's got that. He's got that like. Did I see you in some ads back in the 90s? And you're like, yeah. I was the face of Jenko.
He has the look of somebody who's like, do you know I'm acting Chad?
Okay, that too. Yes, but that's just because he's a Republican.
Do you know who I am? I'm the Chad in charge currently of Chads.
But it's good and bad. Good because a lot of the crappy stuff that they've tried to do in the last 2 years isn't legal, basically.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold any water.
I mean, question is, was any of it legal? That's even prior to Chad, was any of this legal? That's part of the.
Well, that's also the
easy
long
out process of what we're going to be dealing with over the next couple of years, finding out what Trump did was legal.
And honestly, that was the court finding an easy out, because they could have said, okay, this whole program is fucked, and no, none of this is legal. But instead they were like, you know what? He is the acting DHS. Like, you're right. Nope. Acting doesn't count. Not legal. Got to move on. So we'll have to go back again after Trump doesn't nominate somebody, and then Joe does, and nobody gets confirmed, and we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
But that's more about Mitch McConnell, who more and more I'm coming to see. We did a thing about how his hands were all bruised, and what's that smell in the Senate? Oh, Mitch is rotting from the inside. I'm beginning to think that he's got a Darth Vader thing going on. That like being evil makes him happy, and the happiness is slowly killing him. So he's found a nice balance where he's like, I'm rotting, yes, but I'm also carrying out a lot of evil things. So I can't be happy about being evil. That's why he does the laugh. Also his personality is probably why he does that. Yeah, it's I think we're gonna find out that Mitch McConnell is actually just Emperor Palpatine before we're all over. It's gonna be revealed. He's gonna like come out in the Senate on his last day, flip up a hood, and just lightning everybody in the Senate, and then we'll
or the bad guy from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah. So you say, and I pictured the bad guy, but then I also immediately go to the guy rocking the guitar on the front of his car, where he's like,
That's not McConnell.
he doesn't have that kind of.
He ain't about meat hooks. He ain't gonna do that shit.
But anyway, back to what Corey tried to transition to before, which is COVID, because it's very serious, and I'm glad we got our giggles out of the way now. But
Time to be serious.
The U.S. is averaging 150,000 new cases a day. We said 2 weeks ago, we hit 99,000 on a Saturday, but because there's lower test numbers on Saturday and Sunday, we've 100% hit 100,000 that Fauci predicted, and Trump said, we'll never hit it, don't worry about it. And then we hit it. And now we're at 150,000 a day. And, the headline here was
average.
There's an average, and it's a pending humanitarian crisis. And I joked 4 years ago that I wanted Trump to win because he was going to turn us into a third world country. And look at this. We are about to have our own humanitarian crisis, Corey, and a tin pot dictator who's not going to give up power. Welcome to the third world, baby. Woo! He did everything I promised. He did everything I asked of him and more.
Yeah, just since we recorded Monday 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And we had basically 100,000 day on Saturday. And then just a couple days ago, I think Saturday of this past Saturday was the day where we hit 186,000. So we are not only jumping a lot, but we're jumping a lot rapidly. And, it's really sad because it seems like, to me at the very least, like people forget about how long it takes for this to catch up to whatever point we're at. So even if,
the lag, yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, like say everyone, literally 100% of people just stayed inside their houses and didn't go anywhere for 3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got 100% of people to do it. We just had vacation for 3 weeks, right?
I'm liking the sound of this. All right.
Everyone got paid. You're just sitting in your home, just watching Netflix for 3 weeks, right?
Well, wait. You would sit at home and nap and watch Netflix for 3 weeks. I would come up with, I don't know, a short film that I filmed in my apartment by myself, and also a brand new podcast that's going to run twice a day, and many other things.
Twice a day?
Yeah, man. That's the next challenge. I got the daily down. Now the next is, how can I do a 1 minute podcast twice a day? I'm looking for inspiration if anybody's interested. Just let me know. I'm breaking new ground, Corey. Prolific. I'm trying to get my 10,000 hours in.
The Twitter of podcasting.
Yeah. I like that. I'm gonna
just go on Twitter trending topics twice a day and just be like, here's what I see on Twitter trending.
I'm gonna noodle that over. And maybe not record it, just go live.
Here's what the algorithm's saying about me. Guillotines.
Yeah, my algorithm's not going to be what most people's are. But, Anchor does allow us to go live directly from the app. It's one of the great things and one of the reasons we use Anchor.fm. And you can find the podcast at Anchor.fm/Oh the Anthem. Anyway, go ahead.
Yep.
That was a nice ad that I slid right in there. Anchor, where you at? Come on with that money.
But yes, even if everyone stayed home and nobody did anything, then we would still be seeing cases rise, because somebody who got exposed today is not going to be showing symptoms for another, week, 10 days, 14 days, something like that. So, people will continue to get sick while still at home, which means that even if everyone shut literally everything down, we would still be seeing more cases then than we would be now.
And you would get locked in. You get infected. You get locked in with your roommates. And now your roommates who have avoided it thus far are stuck in a small space with you. And
Yeah.
it sucks because they're going to get sick too. But at the end of 3 weeks, we could come out and just be like, all right, if everybody did this, theoretically.
Literally everyone is past it now.
No, we're done it. No more
Yeah.
flights from outside the country. If we had roving bands of security agents who were like, get back in your house, which we're not going to do. Not until after January 20th, 2021. But if we were able to do that, like literally there are small, like New Zealand. This is how New Zealand beat it. They shut down. Everybody stayed home. And it burned itself out because, yes, it affects more people in a household. But 14 days is basically as long as it runs. You shut down for 3 weeks. It burns its way through a household. Anybody who was going to infect anybody gets it. And then we're done. We're done with the whole thing. Now, my guess is apparently New Zealand's cases are going up too. But that's only because it's one of the only COVID-free countries. And people are like, oh, I'm going to travel there for a vacation. So it's the L.A. or the LA, the Nashville, the Las Vegas, where it's like, oh, it's really bad at home. So I had to get out of there. I came to LA and infect 9 people in LA instead.
Right. It's just like, I love I would love the idea of going to Vegas right now.
Oh, yeah.
But
be nice.
I just know that everyone else who's going to Vegas right now is like going like, oh, I'm fucking sick of all the raging cases here in South Dakota. I'm going to go to Vegas.
And speaking of which, California, Oregon, and Washington have issued travel advisories, one for people traveling into the state, but also for their citizens who are traveling elsewhere and coming home, to say, hey, when you get home, you should quarantine. Now, what they should do is, avoid, even if they have a regular thing that they do every single week at nearly the same time, and it's been regular for, more than 6 years, almost 7 years, they should find a way to isolate and stay at home and then go get tested. Maybe twice, just to make sure they're clear. Wait 8 days or so, go get a test, see how you feel. Go another couple days later, get another test. Like this guy is doing, because I'm smart, and I'm smarter than all of you.
But
people
the
who I
problem
see
is,
at restaurants.
And this is the problem, I think, is that, like in places where there weren't cases, like you remember when Florida was acting completely ridiculous, but they weren't getting cases.
Yeah, like what's going on in Florida?
New York was still the epicenter, and like 3 weeks had passed, and Florida didn't get like a huge influx of cases, and like people were just like, "Oh, did Florida figure it out when everyone else failed? Somehow Florida figured it out," and then they got just walloped harder than anybody else. Like as soon as it hit them, it really fucking hit them.
Well, as soon as the seniors hit them, then for senior week and spring break, then
yeah. But I'm saying like the idea that anyone feels like they're safe is kind of not true, because it's just a matter of time before it hits wherever you are. Like I'm sure people who are living in like the upper Midwest where population density is really low, like South Dakota or something like that, were saying to themselves like, oh, we're never going to get it. Who's going to come here? Who's going to bring it to South Dakota? Blah blah
Sturgis.
Blah. Yeah. But seriously, like you we're at the point now where like the Midwest is just getting walloped.
50% rate positive rates in South Dakota, Idaho.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's there's people that I sent you the video of a nurse who was on CNN earlier and talking about how people are in the hospital, like unable to breathe, on ventilators, and like yelling that this is fake and a hoax, and angry about it, as opposed to like reaching out to their family in these last couple moments that they have alive. And it's just like, I understand why somebody would want to believe that it's fake, because that's easier than dealing with the consequences of what we all have to do collectively to be a part of this. But like, at some point, can we just like all just agree to be adult about this? I don't know what else to say. Like,
I want to play newscaster for a bit. Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
His last words to the nurse, because he wouldn't allow his family in the room, is COVID is fake, and no one is going to die from that illness. He died of COVID at age 43. That's what you're preparing yourself for.
Yeah.
Like, you get to be an Onion story where they like, nope, this is real news, and then they post a title that seems like it's from the Onion.
I mean, it just feels like the Darwin Awards is going to be filled with
Oh.
so many candidates this year. It's going to be hard to.
How do you choose one? How do you pick
I mean,
one?
it almost feels like you have to postpone the awards because it would be in poor taste to mention all the people who fucking were deserving of the award. Like,
I think for the first time in their history, the Darwin Awards are going to give the award to COVID for showing us who takes themselves out of the who needed to take themselves out of the
out of the mix.
the mix. Yeah, the pool,
Yeah.
the gene pool, because their thing is what people who remove themselves from the gene pool.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people did that.
I mean, I think travel advisories would work, but like it's also kind of toothless. Like, how do you stop that? Right? Like,
Yep.
did anyone come to you when you got off the plane and said like, hey, where'd you just come from? You got to quarantine for 2 weeks or anything like that? Like, take any information or figure out where you're going or what you're doing or
Nope, nobody at all. And there were
Yeah.
people on my flight who were coming in from international trips. Like there was one guy I overheard talking who said he was coming from, I think Australia. Coming from Australia by way of the Philippines or something into LAX on my flight across country, and then was catching a flight from Philadelphia to Europe. And I'm like, oh, so you're going from Australia to Europe? Cool.
Yeah.
That's patient zero shit right there. That's good. I enjoy that. Thank you for being on my flight.
I mean, the big problem is that like the rules are so different for everyone, and that's part of the problem here. Like, we were talking about Newsom at the French Laundry in Napa, right? With 12 people at a private dinner party outside, right? And it's not good optics, but again, there's nothing that he did that was like super fucking illegal. It's not like he had a raging party in an indoor house or something like that.
better than
12
most
people outside.
influencers. Better than what most influencers are doing right now.
And better than what I'm seeing from people who are back home in Maryland. Like I feel like like indoor dining with more than 10 people is something I'm seeing all the time in Maryland, and to them that doesn't seem like a bad thing. Like in the mind of the people who are living under less restriction, they think that they're being safe, even though comparatively to other parts of the country, we look at the antics and we go like, oh my god, like I see anyone at a bar with a lot of people and I'm just like,
What do you think?
oh my god, why are you there? Like,
Yeah. Who forced you to go there?
Yeah, but Maryland, bars are open in Maryland up until 10 o'clock or whatever. They're cutting it down a little bit.
Well, I
They're-
mean,
they're
luckily
actually making changes, but
We learned that COVID's nocturnal, so naturally we shut down everything.
it
late at
only
night.
comes out of freaks come out at night.
But as Corey just pointed out, like Maryland is tightening up in ways, but California is actually looking to bump everybody back down to the entry-level tier for COVID preparation, which means offices might have to reclose. Restaurants will definitely have to reclose. They'll go back to being just delivery only. Bars will probably have to close. And again, none of this was necessary. As soon as they give people a little bit of freedom, they jump at it and they do dumb things. And I can see people at my work were saying, hey, I got friends who are in Tennessee. I got friends who are in New York. They're already going out and partying. Yes, that's not here. And the rules are different. So
I also think that if Newsom was able to run this state like a king, or Garcetti or anybody like at a local level, restaurants wouldn't be open at all other than pickup or delivery.
100%.
Like, like stores would not be open, or any of these things would not be open. The only reason why they are is because they're on tenuous legal ground as far as what they can do to shut down a restaurant or
Don't push them too far.
Well, there's like emergency, orders that you're able to give as a executive at a mayor or a governor level. And, Newsom had the sort of legal authority to make the 2-week shutdown right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because of
How long does
extenuating
that-
circumstances.
How long does it last, though? What's an emergency?
Yeah, how long are you allowed to keep something out of commission? And like, at what point do you, if you're a lawyer for Disneyland, are you saying like, well, like fucking, we're outside, you got people at the beach, but you can't let people at Disney, like,
We have better lawyers and more money than the state of California. Let's go for it.
even if we came up with the best plan, you won't even entertain the thought, like,
Yep.
even if we only said 10 people are allowed in the park, you would say no. So like, what's the You know, like at what point do we have, you know, a path forward to reopening? Like, why is it so arbitrary? And I get that. Like, I would not want to be the one making the decision. And I say this all the time. Like when we were driving through downtown a month ago or whatever to pick up food, there was a restaurant that had set up seats on the sidewalk.
Right by the bike lane. Yep.
Right by the bike lane, right by the traffic, which is, I don't want to be the one responsible in saying that they're not allowed to be open because this doesn't seem safe enough. Or like one of the places 7th Street who has like tables on the sidewalk. Like 7th Street is not a safe place to be without a mask for any amount of time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not only the people who aren't wearing the mask, but there's homeless people who aren't wearing their masks. There's a lot of like people coming from the metro and stuff like that it's adding to the density of the area.
Yep. Like
in my mind, there's no way that it's safe to eat outside without a mask there. But I don't want to be the one who says this business can't be in operation. You know, this isn't my responsibility. They're trying to make ends meet. I feel horrible for all the businesses that are getting crushed right now.
And look, we did everything we could. We made Uber legal in California. They got their way after they spent $22 million on the ad. Like, what else do you need from us? Just shut the restaurants down.
I'm so past this just because it feels like even if you came up with a great plan and you came up with logic and reason behind every part of it, like just offhand 20% of people would instantly be like, no, absolutely not. Like, it'd be like if you said like, hey, I find out that everyone who goes to a McDonald's gets coronavirus, so let's just shut down the McDonald's and nothing else.
Don't take away my Big Macs. How dare you?
So you're like, this is America, they're allowed to operate. I don't.
Well, and
yeah, but you understand that just this one business, if we shut it down for 2 weeks, we're gonna pay McDonald's so they don't go out of business. We're gonna subsidize their business so that they can be closed for 2 weeks, and we'll be gone with this. And people would just be like, I can't do it without my McNuggets. What are you gonna do?
The best part of this is that I am seeing people who are like, I will fight them in the streets. I'll run to the mountains and be a gorilla. Like, bro, you won't wear a mask in public. Forget about coronavirus. We would all be healthier if we just always wore masks. The reason that in China and in Japan and in other Asian countries, India, a lot of people wear masks all the time is not fashion. It's because they know we have 8 million people in a very small area. I don't want to get the flu and I don't want to give you my flu. I'm going to cover my face. It's just health related. But you're going to fight a guerrilla war from your basement in the streets and then flee to the mountains to continue your guerrilla war.
You know, to be honest, like I never wore a mask when I was sick before, but that's mostly because I never had one.
We have one.
I mean, like if I know that, you know, like a year from now, say we all got the vaccine and we're all good and life's back to normal, blah, blah, blah. A year from now, if I have a cold or something like that, or I'm feeling sick in some way and I have to run to the store and get Subway or something like that, I'm just going to put on the mask. Because to me, it seems like, why wouldn't I do it? Especially if I have it right here and it can make somebody.
I know that it makes it better.
Yeah. The idea is I was never going to, like, whenever I had a cold or something like that before, I never said to myself, like, oh, I got to go run out and buy a mask. I'd just be like, I'm just going to stay in.
Yeah.
But if I know that there's a way to, when I have to go out, to safely do so, or to more safely do so, why not? Why wouldn't you?
I said the mask is now going to be a permanent part of my life. You know, I won't feel as bad about like, oh, it is real hot. So, you know, when I stop my scooter ride, I'm going to pop it off once we're all vaccinated and everybody's fine. But in the end, people are looking at this like, once we get through this, we'll be fine. This is the first. There will be more of these things that go around the planet. We're fucking with nature, and it's gonna get worse.
And you know, with what was the other one? Fuck, just a couple years ago during
SARS.
Obama. Yeah, SARS.
Oh, Ebola.
Yeah, I mean, like SARS mostly though, because like that had the same sort of impact hypothetically as coronavirus does.
It is a coronavirus.
It's a coronavirus. Yeah, I mean, it's just another strain of it, but I mean, like it could have had the potential to be as bad, but the problem was that the virality of it wasn't as strong as this one is.
What does Jeff Goldblum say in Jurassic Park?
finds a way.
Nature always finds a way. So it almost killed off a bunch of people with SARS. And it was like, okay, so the problem with this is it doesn't spread fast enough and people get symptoms too soon. So what we need is a variety of this, that you're infectious faster and the symptoms come on slower. Okay, great. Now we have COVID. And we will defeat this. There will eventually be a vaccine, and then MERS or SARS or another coronavirus or Ebola or the plague will mutate slightly and go spreading around the world. Because the problem isn't the viruses. That's always been the same. They always mutate. They always find a way to infect humans because we are really good spreaders. Now we're even better spreaders because some dude can get on a flight in Australia and be in LA 14 hours later, and then be in Maryland 6 hours after that, and then be in Europe 10 hours after that. So It's going to continue to happen. But I will be wearing a mask forever. I will feel less like I don't even touch the mask. Like I put on the mask, put on my gloves, don't touch the mask. Take off the gloves, take off the mask. That's my like order of operations, and I just don't feel as pressed about it in the future when everybody's vaccinated. And that's assuming a lot of things, like that everybody will get vaccinated and not tell us how. Another great post I saw this week was a woman who on her little Facebook group said, I don't know why we are focusing on vaccines so much. Why don't we take a weakened version of the virus and just give that to people? And wouldn't that help their body naturally fight off the virus? And it's just like line after line of people like, seriously though? Like, is this are you trolling us or is this a serious comment? Because the woman did not realize that is what a vaccine is. Crazy motherfuckers. But one thing I did see on the news today is that they are avoiding one of the issues they've talked about is how the vaccine is going to have to be kept cold, like -20 for some, -70 for others. And the reason for that is they don't have to add the mercury sulfate as a stabilizer. So thankfully, Pfizer and Moderna and the other companies that are working on vaccines are like, let's check Facebook for why the crazy Karens really don't like vaccines. The mercury part, okay, great. We're going to avoid the mercury because that's really just a stabilizing agent, which makes it last better in shipping. And instead, what we're going to do is make sure you have to ship it below 0 so that it stays fresh until it gets to you. And then warm it up right before you put it in the person so that the virus will come back to life. But I hate everybody. This episode just made me realize I hate everybody.
So real quick, we do have messages in the chat, but they're from Twitch, so they're not completely showing. Do you have a way of pulling up that full message?
I do. Let's transition to that. But in the meantime, I know let's lightning round the thing that you wanted to talk about this week, which is, of course, sports ball. All right, I'll pull that up. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, big news in the world of sports ball, and we haven't been as much onto sports ball here recently because there's been a lot of national political news going on. But wonderful news: the Miami Marlins have just made Kim Ng their general manager. She is the first female general manager of any of the 4 major sports. And for people who aren't as into sports and don't know what the general manager is, that's basically the executive, the CEO of the sports team. And they decide the players that get signed and like who the coaches are and who fills in all the different marketing and scouting and every aspect of running a sports team. And there has never been a female who has led a major league team, an NFL team, an NHL team, or an NBA team until now. And Kim Ng specifically has been in this game for a long time. And I feel like it's 8+ years at this point. She's been in some manner in a front office of baseball. She was assistant general manager for the Yankees and the Dodgers and has worked in the commissioner's office for the last 10 years or so. And if nothing else, it made me think about how any woman who tells you about how she has to work harder and longer to be able to get the same sort of job the man does, just look at fucking Kim Ng's resume and then tell me why she didn't get a job before some statistician from Harvard or MIT who gets a job way quicker. Like it's definitely showing the problems that women have to deal with to be able to get to the high ends of sports like this. But I'm not taking away from the accomplishment and the fact that this is a new day, and hopefully we're going to work so much more in the direction of having more female GMs across baseball, because there's no reason why not. And I know so many female baseball fans. I think baseball, for whatever reason, really translates to a female audience a lot. I know a lot more female baseball fans than I know female football or basketball or hockey fans. And I think that this is the right move. And I'm proud of baseball because they, Jackie Robinson, they're more inclined to sort of make a move like this and to be the first. And I applaud them for doing that, and specifically the Marlins for giving her the chance to run the show.
And I know you wanted to talk about the Ravens as well, but just to interject before you do, apparently we can't see old comments, and they didn't go through to Discord for some reason. So just as a reminder, I highly recommend everybody join the Discord. I'm going to repost this so it should come up in all of the chats. But that way you can comment directly to us. We keep the Discord up, and usually the comments forward to it, but apparently they didn't. So if you're watching on Twitch or anywhere, repost that comment, and we'll be happy to get to it. But
if nothing else, we'll to you aside from it, because I feel bad because the message from my end cuts off at a certain point, and I don't know exactly what was about to be asked.
Yeah,
so I feel bad, but I also want to help you, so I will gladly message you off podcast to help you out with your problem.
Whisper. It's called Whispers on Twitch. We can whisper.
Oh, nice. There we go.
And I'll just have to give Corey the login since he's never logged into Twitch before. But so good news. Kim Ng is in the Marlins. Bad news is that the Ravens apparently are out when it comes to football at all.
And
the deep. I don't know.
It's one of those. How do we really know? It didn't look good losing to the Patriots yesterday. The team did not look as good as they had last year, for instance. But I do still feel like this team has a lot of talent. It's just going to take something a little bit different to make it all work. So, for instance, the Patriots are 4-5 now, but they were 3-5 coming into the game. And their season was effectively over if they lost this game against the Ravens. So it was a kitchen sink game where you got to throw literally everything out there and try and get the win however you can. And, they managed to win in a very wet and not very fun-looking football game, and they get to keep their season alive. The Ravens now, I feel like, are in that same position coming into this week coming up against the Titans, where they're really going to have to win because the week following that is going to be the Steelers, and you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you're going to be 6-5 after that Steelers game and really wondering whether or not you're going to be able to put it together and make the playoffs.
And not that they're definitely going to lose the Steelers game, but the Steelers are unbeaten at this point. So it's
not a layup. If you're looking at the games coming forward, and it's not like saying the Titans are a layup either, because they beat us last year in the playoffs. But I'm saying, at that point, you got to be looking at, much like we were talking about politics all this time, you got to figure out where you're going to pick up these extra wins to be able to make the playoffs. If you lose to a Patriots, you got to kind of win against the Titans to be able to even it out. Because if you're looking at the season going in, you're saying okay, we should beat the Bengals twice because they're not as good as we are. We should beat this team. We should beat this team. We should beat this team.
You can just say the Browns. Yes, we should beat
Well,
the
I know,
Browns.
but I'm saying if you lose to one of those teams, then you got to figure out where you're going to pick up that win elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, instead of, if you lose to the Browns one of those games, then maybe you have to win against the Chiefs to be able to even up the record and still make it to the playoffs. And that's a much harder sell than just beating the Browns to begin with.
Also, we lost to the Chiefs, so.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, I don't think anyone factored that in as a win going into the season. So you would have to think about where you might be losing games and win them instead.
Well, and I think another problem is I don't know that people thought we were going to lose to the Steelers, or that the Steelers were going to be so hard to beat going in. But now, clearly they are. They may be the team to beat in the AFC North right now. I mean, they are the team to beat in the AFC North because they're unbeaten, but...
Yeah, my problem with the Ravens, number one, the injuries are just out of control. Like for all that there's been about the 49ers and the Eagles, who definitely have gotten like sort of the worst of the injuries so far this season. The Ravens are in a real bad spot. I mean, losing Ronnie Stanley was bad enough, but we got 3 or 4 people in the offensive line playing out of position or playing somewhere, or just like being a second string, being pulled up to first string. And that's very difficult to fix in midstream. Like the offensive line hypothetically should be, the same 5 guys for 16 games because they learn how to play with one another.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what it was like last season. I don't think we really had any injuries that I can remember on the offensive line last year. Not anything super serious at the very least. And, again, this year, number one, it just feels like the play calling is a little flat, but it also feels like there's not enough talents around there that are making things work. Like, I think people are saying to themselves they're going to shut down Andrews and keep him from beating you. And then what are you, Willie Snead and Hollywood Brown and, Des Bryant or Miles Boykin or any of these wide receivers don't really strike fear into the heart of the other and of the opponents. So like,
and you said in the in our pre-show talk, like, Hollywood Brown's great, but if he's who you have to worry about, you double team him, and no matter how fast he is, they have fast guys too. So, you have a safety over the top with the cornerback, and now you've taken him out of the game basically.
And I mean, this is not meant to like. I think that Greg Roman is getting a lot of shit right now, and I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be lamented for very flat play calling, but I do think that this team just doesn't seem to have the right combination of things that are working at the same time to be able to make it look like last year's team. And also, I think that Lamar. Not a criticism of Lamar, but he's been the best player he's always been on any team he's ever been on, or pretty much any team he's ever played.
Yeah.
So he in his mind, he probably thinks he's one of one. And when you get in that situation, think about it like this: if we went to the basketball court right now, right?
Yep, I would beat you. Just as
well, no, I'm just saying, like any listener, put yourself in this. You go down to the basketball hoop, right?
Okay.
And you're just like, I'm just going to shoot a bunch of threes, right? I'm just going to practice my shot and shoot a bunch of threes. Say you make the first 10 in a row that you make. Just like the first 10 shots, they all sink. They're all perfect. There's going to be a part of your mind where you say to yourself, oh, I'm really hot right now. I can do whatever I want. And then you start throwing it up one-legged and you're just like, I can scoop this up into the hoop and stuff like that, because you start getting confident in your own abilities.
That doesn't explain it though, because you always did that, but you would always be losing. What's the?
Because I have to make it up. That's
oh, okay. You're making it up. I got it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You got to make up for the obvious losses. Like.
All right, we're playing at 21. I'm down 17-0. I got to start making up some ground here.
You start. If you go and you start making shot after shot after shot, you're going to start subliminally in your mind, you're going to start saying like, I can do whatever I want, and it's going to go in because I just have it today. And there's been a couple times this year where Lamar, like it looks like, in my mind, judging from how I sort of view my own athleticism and how I judge it on others, I see him like sort of like thinking like, oh, I can make this work. I can force this play and make it happen. But then somebody else is getting a jump on it, or like it's just not as 50-50 as he thought it was. And there's more interceptions this year because of that. I just think that he in his mind, he thinks he's capable of doing anything, and he is, but the right number of things have to be working for that to happen too. Like it's not like just because you woke up today and you shot 10 for 10 on your 3-point shot when you woke up means that when you go play the game, you're going to have the same sort of luck or success. Like
I hear you. So
somebody on the defensive end could have the same sort of feeling, have the same sort of mojo going for them, and your 10 for 10 doesn't work out as well as their 10 for 10.
So Corey's advice is to keep the offensive coordinator and then sit Lamar and play RG3. I got it. I hope that I hope John's listening.
Really what I'm saying is just find a way to make the team feel more dynamic. Like part of the reason why the Ravens were such a formidable foe last year was because people didn't know what was coming. Like at any point the play could break down, Lamar could run for 30 yards.
Yeah.
And you had to respect that. Now the defenses, because they're getting an extra second or two on the rush because the offensive line is battered, Lamar's getting less time to be able to figure things out. And then by the time he decides he wants to run, it's not the optimal condition like it was last year when he had Yonda guarding for him, like it's just like if you twisted your ankle, I wouldn't expect you to run your best 40-yard dash time, like we're dealing with some inconsistencies which are not allowing us to be our best version. So what can you do to sort of mimic that feeling, to make people think that we're really clicking, or to do something a little bit different to make it feel like we're dangerous? Like it's just it's really Harbaugh who has to figure it out. And I think Harbaugh who has to sort of put the screws to Roman and say, like, listen, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to have you come out with these flat balls every day. I know that we're dealing with a lot injury wise, but we just got to figure it out. We got to figure out a way to be more dynamic. And hopefully, Tennessee this weekend, they figure that out, because they really need to. They really need to.
Fingers crossed. And also fingers crossed that I can come watch the game this weekend.
Yeah. Just get some negative tests. And,
I got to get that. I said the COVID test is the new STD test of our generation. You go out, you have a crazy weekend, and then you go stand in line with me in the 87-degree heat after it was freezing cold last week. And you stand there with like, man, I don't know why I went to Soho House. Oh, what was I thinking? All right, I'm going to get this test, and I'm going to live straight, and then I'm going to
Why did I go to Kendall Jenner's birthday last night?
Yes, that was the line of people getting the test today. And I was sitting there like, I've done everything right. And look at all of you living in sin. I turned it to my dad. That's what I did. I turned it to my dad just briefly, and I was just like, all of you.
The other problem, too, is that I worry too many people in the line are like, I went out for a party on Saturday. I'm going to go get tested on Sunday. And
that's 100% what they were doing.
And it's just like, negative. I'm good to go. And then 4 days later, you're at another party and you give COVID to 15 people. And then he's like, but I tested negative. How did it happen?
Yeah. I stood in line 8 days after my flight. I've seen 3 living human beings in the last week. The guy who works the door at CVS after 10 o'clock, or really after midnight, and then 2 Postmates drivers. That's been the 3 people. Both of which, by the way, I didn't even request doorstop or like door delivery, but they put down the food in front of my door, knocked, and walked away. And I'm like, you guys are the real MVPs. You guys are the real MVPs. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't really want you to put my food on the ground. Like,
no, it's in a bag. It's fine.
If it was a porch, like a house or something like that, I'm fine with you putting it in front of the doorstep. But I don't want to walk out on Broadway and just see my food on the sidewalk.
Are we gonna pretend I haven't seen you eat chips off the floor that Carly has been laying on and that your dirty feet have been on? Come on, is it worse than that? Really?
You haven't seen that. I will make an exception for some crab chips, though. I'm just saying, I'm crazy about them crab chips. You know what else I'm crazy about, though?
What's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. Me? My website is CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com. Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm and @LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Really enjoyed that review you did this week, Corey.
I know. I swear to God, I know it sounds like this is something I always say, but I'm working on something nice. So hopefully this week, assuming that I finish traffic school and the new puppy doesn't distract me too much and the usual stuff, I will hopefully have that done soon. But something really special. I told Rob a little bit about it, so. He approved, so we'll see what happens.
I believe I approved that 2 weeks ago when you're like, this week I'm coming out with something super special, and then it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I also have the house to myself again, so that'll make things easier.
Yeah, I just want everybody to know I have been sent no less than 3 pictures this week of Corey sleeping with the puppy in the middle of the afternoon. So, I mean, listen, you can say whatever you want, sir, But
I have been waking up at 6:30 in the morning for this goddamn dog. And that is not part of why I moved to Los Angeles. I did not move here to wake up early in the morning.
I
moved
listen.
here to be able to sleep till 11 a.m.
I get it. You have to make sacrifices when you're trying to get your girl to forget about a wedding or a baby. So you can find more from me at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks, including TikTok. You can find me on Twitch, where I do stream my terrible play of Call of Duty, although I have tried to be a voice of reason, so you'll never get me on a hot mic. What you'll get on a hot mic is like, good shot, or nice play, bro. And I'm trying to be Mr. Positivity on Twitch, even though inside I'm screaming like, what the fuck? But anyway, you can find that on twitch.tv/Robert and Cheek. Also Snapchat, TikTok, as I said, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. RobertandCheek.com is the website where you can find links to all the stuff that I do, including the books, which are going to be available on Amazon.
Buy those books.
And I'm working on a new book now. I am doing too much Twitch streaming and not enough writing, but I'm going to work on that this week. I just don't have time for everything that I do. I have 20 hours plus of Twitch streaming. I do a daily podcast, Rob Explains, which you can find at anchor.fm/Rob Explains. We're talking about mythical creatures this week. We've talked about a little bit of idioms, and I am going to do a post about this guy who I just heard about today, Gregor McGregor, who invented a country and then basically sold people plots of land in a country that didn't exist. And it's a fascinating story, and I really want to share that with everybody. But I'm also doing Rob Explains, 2 episodes a week. No matter what, Sunday and Thursday, you get a new episode of Rob Explains. So you can hear me on the Anthem podcast on Monday, Monday recording, Tuesday when the episode comes out, Sundays and Thursdays for Everyman Movie Review. Rob Explains every single day on Twitch, at least over the weekend. I do some highlights and I post those. What else do I have going on? I'm writing a book. It's such a long list. I sometimes forget things I'm working on.
I'm still trying to come up with a joke for Gregor McGregor.
Yeah, dude's name is Gregor McGregor. Yeah, he issued money for his fictional country, which he signed it McGregor. And I'm like, that is a power move. He'd just be like, you know who I am with the one name. Yeah, there you go.
In McGregor we trust.
I'm editing the books. There's going to be backup on Amazon. I'm finishing a book or working on a book now. Hopefully that'll be out next year. There's a lot of stuff going on. Oh, and I'm working on a twice daily podcast, apparently, which is like Twitch thing. If anybody has any ideas, seriously though, I did have an idea for QAnoners are really pissing me off, and I really just want to. I have this idea for a conspiracy show where we talk about conspiracies. We'll focus on QAnon at first and then transition. But what I really need is somebody who believes all conspiracies are true and somebody who never believes conspiracies are true. I need a believer and a skeptic. So if that sounds like you, let me know, and we can get down. Obviously, we're doing everything digitally now, so we can do the whole thing digitally. I mean, it looks, if my camera was better cropped, which I did a horrible job cropping it, you wouldn't know that I'm just not sitting where I normally am in the show, except for Corey puts in no effort with no green screen behind him, and he's clearly not here with me.
Well, I need everyone to be able to see the flags back there. What's the point?
I mean, listen, I could put the flags in digitally. I'm just saying, I could have the whole background be an Irish flag and a Maryland flag. And by the way, you know the Maryland flag is a racist institution.
What isn't? Like at a certain point, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think that like the stars and bars, and like there was a tweet that was making its rounds this weekend with the Million MAGA March, where it's like the Confederate flag and the Blue Lives Matter flag and the
Nazi flag,
the Nazi flag, and it's just like this is all the same flag. People, like historians will tell you this is all the same flag. This all means the same exact thing in the minds of people who have it. I wouldn't have one of those on my wall because clearly that definitely says something about you.
Yeah.
The Maryland flag, I mean, like, the national anthem is kind of fucking racist too, if you think about it.
Yep.
So, I think we all sort of make these
compromises. Yes,
you've compromises of like, of what of the age were these things when they were written, and how much are we going to create a big deal of it? Like, I don't see a lot of people saying that like George Washington should be eliminated from the history books, even though he was racist, but his racism wasn't the same level as other racists of the era. Like he wasn't a Thomas Jefferson who he can compartmentalize as a racism apart from everyone else. But like, Washington, Adams, these are all racist. All the presidents were basically racist, but to what degree, I guess, is the question
Listen,
that you want to.
Trump has brought out all your racist friends. If you ask anybody on Facebook about Kim Ng, that's going to bring out all your sexist friends. And if you really want to know people, ask them about the flags on their walls and how much they're willing to compromise.
I mean, if Maryland wants to change its flag like Mississippi did, then I'll consider putting a new flag on the wall. I don't know what to.
Same flag, just "In God We Trust" underneath the. Just emblazoned across the middle. "In God We Trust."
Because what part of the flag is it? Is it the crosses or is it the Calvert side?
Ooh.
The Calvert side is the crosses, right?
Ooh.
And then
Sounds like I should do an episode of Rob Explains on the racist history of the Maryland flag. That'll be coming up this week, so just keep an ear out for that.
All right. I just don't push any jackalope content because I like the mythical creatures. Actually, I'm enjoying this.
I got some other stuff coming up. What today was? No, Centaurs was before. Today was a Kraken. Is that what it was today?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got some other stuff coming in. The Anasi, some stuff from Europe.
Chupacabra
was a couple days ago. Yeah. So we got a lot of good stuff coming. I will push it for the weekend then.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the OD Anthem podcast, part of the OD Anthem digital network. For Corey, I'm going to get this one of these days. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I don't have anything to add.
Oh, what the hell, man?